The Super Bowl 59 Props edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Edge Boost. Earn up to $750 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Go to edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
And taking a shot to ground downfield. He makes the catch, and he gets in for the touchdown. The catch is made by Calvin Ridley. Wilson, it as he throws deep downfield. It's going to be caught by Metcalf.
Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And then there were two. The final game happening on Sunday, of course, Super Bowl 59 for all the marbles between the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Should be a great matchup, a rematch of just a few seasons ago between these two teams. Of course, you guys know how we do it here. We'll get into all the props that we're looking at in this game. We'll talk about player props, game props, touchdown scores, of course. We'll talk about maybe some honorable mentions that we're still looking into, maybe get to the window by Sunday as kickoff gets there. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up with best bets. So a lot to get to here, but joining me, of course, as he has all season long, I'm crushing it here on the Propcast with our props. I got my guy here with me. It's ChrisBeCappinn. Chris, what's going on, my man? I just felt like we were just doing the division season-long previews, but here we are, the final game of the season.
Here we are, man. Didn't go as planned. Well, I actually didn't have my Commanders making the Super Bowl. That I had us going to the AFC, NFC Championship game, but not getting out of it. So, I guess I'll take what I got this year, and I'm pretty sure you will with your Houston Texans as well. But I think it's just speaking about the Super Bowl. I think it's a great matchup, man. You got a high-flying offense in the Philadelphia Eagles, especially with, they coming back. This the rematch, but this time they got Saquon with them, So, can Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid and, the boys put up enough points to outscore this dual threat offense that we see for the Philadelphia Eagles, or will it be enough? And Patrick Mahomes is knocked off his throne, So it's going to be interesting, man. I think I'm hearing a lot of, Eagles love, but I think some of that is, primarily based around just not wanting to see Mahomes win again, right? Yeah, we've seen this story before, right? His name wasn't Patrick Mahomes. It was rhymed with Rom Brady, and he played on another team that had red, white, and blue, or silver and blue and red and all that good stuff. So we've seen it before. I think we've seen it in basketball. You just don't want to see the three-peats. You don't want to see teams going to the championship game over and over and over again. So I think we're setting up for a good one, because you never want to count this guy out, is what I'm learning very, very quickly in what still feels like the earlier stages of his career.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have learned that one the hard way of fading one Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, hopefully it's a good game. Look, the last time these two teams matched up, it turned out to be a really good game, a very high scoring game as well. A lot of changes since then as well, right, for both these teams, especially for the Philadelphia Eagles, having, of course, Saquon Barkley in the backfield there with Jalen Hurts. So, we'll talk about all that. Of course, we'll get our official Super Bowl predictions as well at the end of the episode here. So, Chris, a lot to get into here, but before I do get into the player props side of things here, let me just remind everybody that SGPN is running a free Super Bowl squares pool, $1,000 winner take all for the final square. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/square to sign up today. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/squares, and do to popular the band. If we get to 200 entries, we'll release another $1,000 free squares pool. So get over there, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/squares. All right, Chris, let's get into the player prop side of things here. I think we'll just take it team by team. We'll start with the Chiefs here, and then we could work to the Eagles side if we have anything there. But player props to the Chiefs side, anything that you're looking at there?
Yeah, it's one that really stands out to me. We know that, at this given time, I think it's always good for us to say this, and you probably were going to mention it as well. At this time, if the books have all of the data and, from full season long stuff, more recent stuff as well. So we expect these lines to be sharp, right? A lot of people, throw away money in the Super Bowl, and we're trying not to do that. We're trying to be profitable, of course. So the one that really jumped out to me, one that kind of stood off, and I've been just kind of pondering on it and thinking about it, reading about it. And that's Isaiah Pacheco, looking at his rush attempts to stay under 6.5 here. He just, it's for a lot of different reasons. But if we jump into the handicap, is really the biggest part is just the decreased role in the offense, right? This line, I think, opened at 7.5. It's down to 6.5. I actually see it down to 5.5 on a couple books. So it does come in a little juiced. I think it's minus 135 over on Bet MGM, but I would definitely lean, I'll definitely play it that way. You look at Isaiah Pacheco's significant, reduction in his workload since returning from that fractured fibula that caused him to miss 9 games earlier this season. In the playoffs, I mean, it's only been worse. If he's only received 5 carries in each of his 2 games so far, 19% of his of the offensive snaps in the divisional round, and 31% of the snaps in the AFC Championship game. So, if you've been watching, the Kansas City Chiefs, then Kareem Hunt's kind of taking over as the primary back over there in Kansas City. So I'm just not liking what I'm seeing there. If this is Kareem's, it seems like Kareem's Hunt, which his Russian prop I think is 11.5, which the books are telling us the story there. I just don't like the trajectory that we've seen as far as the decreased role here. When I looked at, I gave out the numbers, but 23% rush share against the Houston Texans, 30% rush share against the 30% run share 3 weeks ago. Well, 3 games ago, and then last game against Buffalo, just 14%. And Kareem Hunt's rush shares are going the opposite way, right? So he went 45, 36, 49. So he's running the ball a lot more. We know that the Eagles defense is relatively strong, ranking second in PFF run defense, allowing the 4th lowest yards per carry to opposing running backs as well. They're also second they've also allowed the second fewest EPA rush yards, EPA per rush, during the regular season as well. So it's highly unlikely that, this Kansas City Chiefs team is going to be able to find success on the ground in general. I think the game is going to be run through the air. Not that they won't try to mix it up and, have a well-balanced attack and not have it all rely on Patrick Mahomes. But game script tells me that they'll rely a lot on Patrick Mahomes here, So Isaiah Pacheco, getting him under 7 rush attempts, I think is the most solid play for me on the Kansas City side. I like Isaiah Pacheco under his 6.5 rush attempts here,
Yeah, I mean, with the injury that he did suffer, did Pacheco, I think, how do I phrase this? That the amount of time that he did miss, that I still think it takes another solid 4 to 5 games to kind of get up to game speed again, and just have actual playing time to kind of get that rust off. And I think that you mentioned with Kareem Hunt, we talked about this. I think it was after they played the Texans to the Chiefs that I think I like the over on Pacheco in that game, just thinking that, coming back, having a couple more weeks off, Texans rush defense wasn't playing well at the time, but it just turned into the Kareem Hunt show, especially in that second half there. And like you mentioned, in each of the 2 games in the playoffs thus far, he's had exactly 5 rush attempts, which has equated to total of 30 yards there. So an average of 3 yards per carry there for Isaiah Pacheco. And Kareem Hunt has really embraced a role here in his absence, not only during the regular season, but also in the playoffs, right? You take a look, 8 for 44 against the Texans, had a touchdown, a big week against the Bills in that AFC Championship game, 17 rush attempts for 64 rushing yards in that game. So, yeah, I'd be with you on this one. Like you mentioned, I think a lot of this will be on the shoulders of Patrick Mahomes to get this done for the Kansas City Chiefs. So they do want to three-peat for the first time in NFL history. Excuse me. All right. For my Kansas City Chiefs side of things here, Chris, couple of different ways I wanted to go here, but the official one I'll give out is going to be Xavier Worthy on his rushing yards to go over. The number, I missed the opening number. It was at 4.5. It's up to 6.5 now at most books, but I do anticipate him being involved at least in 1 or 2 plays as far as the running game does go. And he has been not only throughout the season, but also in the postseason when you talk about those jet sweeps or those gimmick plays that Andy Reid draws up. And when Andy Reid has that extra time to prepare for opponents, he's going to come up with something out of his bag. But you take a look at Xavier Worthy in the playoffs thus far. He did have one carry, did go for -8 yards against the Texans, but then last week, or I should say 2 weeks ago, against the Bills in the championship game, 2 rush attempts for 16 yards. But I mean, look, he was getting it done during the regular season. The final 3 weeks that he actually played in a game for this Chiefs team, he had at least 10 rushing yards for the Kansas City Chiefs there. So if Isaiah Pacheco is not working, and then you want to shake things up and give a different look and keep the defense honest, what better way to use Xavier Worthy in those type of situations there. So I shied away from the receiving yards or the receiving props for Xavier Worthy, but I do think there's an opportunity here for him to get involved in the rushing game here. So I'll give you that one for the Chiefs side of things. Xavier Worthy over 6.5 rushing yards here, Chris.
Hey, it's an excellent find, man. It's an excellent find because you really just need him to get a carry, right? I mean, I'm looking
Pretty
at the season right now. He's averaging just 1.2. So, if he gets that carry, most of the time it goes for something positive is what I'm looking at based on his game logs here. And like you mentioned, I do see a 5.5. It looks like 5.5 is available on FanDuel, and he's landed on 5 4 times so far this season. But when he goes over, like you said, it's been 7 or more, and he has a couple games in here where he has 4 games where he's actually had 13 yards or more this season. So I think the icing on top, the part about your handicap that I like the most is exactly what you said about giving you don't want to give this Chiefs offense extra time to prepare. Like they will watch film night in and night out and figure out what your weakness is. And we know that the NFL, is all about strength, but it's also about speed. And Xavier Worthy is a dynamic playmaker, and we can expect them to try to put the ball in his hands. So it's an excellent find by you, I feel like this is black market props. Like this one isn't on a lot of people's list. So I like this one a lot. I'm probably gonna tell you on this little Xavier Worthy Russian prop love. I like that a lot.
All right, let's keep it going here. Let's get to the Eagles side of things here for player props. Chris, anything like for the Eagles side for player props?
You know what? I want to go back real quick. I want to go back to Kansas City real quick. I want to talk about just a little bit about, and I could be totally off here, but I do like the line here for DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if you looked into this. His receiving yards 11.5, man.
Yeah.
I know he hasn't been doing. I completely get it, but this is low line with high upside, right? Yeah. Line set at 11.5, significantly lower than what he's averaging on the season, which is about 35 yards per game. Even in his last 20 games, he's averaged 36 yards per game. So I think he can get a couple catches in a row. I think there's a trust factor there with Patrick Mahomes. They've established a pretty good rapport, especially in clutch situations, despite his recent limited production. Just 18 yards in his last 3 games. I get that, but the Super Bowl and his veteran playmaking ability, that has to balance out the Travis Kelce on the other side. Right. Yeah. I just think that it's a pretty good matchup, especially with them having to pass the ball a lot, man. I know a player like DeAndre Hopkins has been in the league for so long, finally getting a chance to get to the big game, get to the big dance. I think that he's going to be super locked in. I just kind of expect him to be a possession receiver because immediately, first thing I looked at was his longest reception. It's 9.5, and I'm like, man, that seems doable too. But, for him to run, a slant or a curl or comeback, that may be 8-9 yards and, maybe he goes straight down. Maybe he gets a 10-yard reception. But it feels like, I need him to get 2 catches. He's had 2 catches a lot this season. So I contemplated with the catches as well. But I just kind of feel like whether it's 1 catch or 2 catches, if he's going to have, I think, an impact on this game that's not being priced with the market right now. So I like I do like DeAndre Hopkins, up and over his 11.5. I see it at 12.5 on some books. There's some super juiced 10.5 as well, but 11.5 looks like it's a consensus, and the best number right now is -115, but over on BetMGM. Any thoughts on Mr. Hopkins this week? I know he's one of your guys, so him a little probably better than most.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, right? It's just that he hasn't really had the production in the playoffs in the 2 games. Total of 3 targets, 1 reception, 11 yards. Um, During the regular season, he was really good. But I think for the Chiefs side of things, it's going to be one of 2 guys that I think pops off. It's either going to be Juju or it's going to be Hopkins. And I just can't tell which guy it's going to be. I know last week, or I keep on saying last week, but 2 weeks ago against the Bills, it was Juju. This could be the Hopkins game. I mean, again, I've talked about this a lot. We've talked about Hopkins throughout the pod in the season, is that he has some of the best hands in the entire NFL. It's just about him getting the targets, right? And I think that if he's able to get the targets, he's going to crush this number. So this is a very, very, very buy low situation here for DeAndre Hopkins. Again, it could just take one catch for him to get there. I think what you mentioned, Chris, for Hopkins, I would probably just play his longest reception to go over, thinking that he just gets it done
One catch,
in one catch,
10-yard
right?
reception. I mean, we're not asking for a lot, right? Just a
It's
first
really
down,
not.
right?
It's a first, yeah, exactly. It's a first down. So I would look at it that way for D Hop in this game here. And some of the books have it at 10.5 for his longest reception. So I mean, you're getting a discount on 1 yard there, but it could be where he gets like 2 for 13 and you don't get the longest rush, or sorry, the longest reception. But I think for Hopkins, he's a guy that could be a downfield type of threat. I mean, I'm not talking 20, 30 yards down the field, but you take a look at some of his long catches this season. 15 against the Texans, 12 against the Browns, 10 against the Chargers, 34 against the Raiders, 12 against the Panthers, 13 against the Bills in the regular season, 31, 35. The list goes on and on. He has great historical numbers against this Eagles team. I'm not going to dive into that just because it's outdated and he's not the number one guy like he was when he was with the Texans. He's probably down on the totem pole at 4 to 5 right now. So I think it's a great buy low situation here for DeAndre Hopkins. I'll mention one more for the Chiefs side of things I did bet here, Chris. Before I do that, let me go ahead and tell everyone about, of course, it's the big game. We're talking about it, and it's not the itty bitty tiny bowl. It's the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SGP. That's code SGP for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. The SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the number one AI-powered back sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds. Build your own model, copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA, Rhythm has it all. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, Chris, I did have one more for the Chiefs side. Another buy low situation here. Samaje Perine, over 7.5 receiving yards. And, you know, we just talked about that. We don't really expect
Pacheco
to be, so thank you, to be really involved in the rushing game. But I think when it comes down to those situations where you're looking for those 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 3s, those pass catching running back situations, I think Samaje Perine is that guy for this team. And you just take a look, Chris, during the regular season, he went over this projection in 14 of the 17 games that he played in for this Kansas City Chiefs team. 14 of the 17. Last week, if you did bet this prop, you were sweating it out because he got it done on the final play that sealed the first down there for the Kansas City Chiefs on 1 reception on 1 target. But he's also a guy that, again, if you want to bet the longest reception to go over for him, I wouldn't fault you for that. The books just don't have that one available right now. But I do think this is an opportunity. Again, if he gets 1 or 2 targets, he makes the most of it. Like I mentioned, during the regular season, 14 of the 17 games, he went over this number of 7.5 receiving yards. The only part that makes me nervous is I think that he's going to get enough snaps and the ball in this game. That's the only part that I question a little bit, but I think this is a good opportunity for Samaje Perine over 7.5. Chris, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, but that's when I did bet.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime, if you come on the show and you give out a receiving prop for a running back, we know the hit rates on those are pretty immaculate. It's a nice ROI. And most of the time you get, like you said, a super buy low spot. You're typically getting, 7.5. So you need one, pass and touch, one, but most of the time one catch out the backfield, right? It'll get you an 8-yard pickup, 9-yard pickup, 10-yard pickup, sometimes even more than that. So I think all of these have been quite sneaky. Austin Eckler was somebody that was cashing this as well. I also think that it's correlated to, this being 2 of the better run defenses in the NFL, right? We know that the Eagles can stop the run. I don't think the Chiefs have given up a 100-yard rusher all season. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Saquon as well. We know that, you just give him the football and, 4 quarters later, he has 300 rushing yards. So I think that in itself lies to the quarterbacks having to be a bit more useful with their arms and not just handing it off. So I think that creates that opportunity for you in this situation as well, especially like you said, with both of us thinking we got the script on Pacheco. So a little bit more Samaje in this one. I like that look a lot.
All right, so those are the Chiefs side of things for the player props here. Chris, anything you like for the Eagles side of things as far as player props go?
Not a lot, if I'm being honest, not a lot. I think the one thing I looked at was I feel like Saquon at 21.5 rush attempts. I think we got to address it, even if neither one of us are going to bet it, is probably sitting about right. We talked about this, right? Yeah. He's averaging 25. We get that, but we know that, Steve Spagnuolo and the defense is going to have something ready. And, there's a livelihood and a chance that the Eagles are playing from behind because this is the Chiefs. And not that the Chiefs get out, and get out to big leads because they haven't been doing that, but they also haven't been, part of too many games where, it's a very tight spread. Typically they land, a lot more points than just the 1.5 that we see the current line at. So I think there is a chance, where the Eagles don't dominate the time of possession because we know that the Kansas City Chiefs can also eat up clock. And that would lend itself to a Saquon Barkley to go under on his rush attempt. So not super excited about getting that at 22, right? You really need Saquon to have 22 rush attempts. Yep. What stood out to me a little bit on the Eagles side, was Jalen Hurts actually. Looking at his rushing yards. So either the over at 36.5, I think it is, or the longest rush attempt at 12.5. They both make a little sense. I lean those ways, haven't bet either one of them. But I'm looking at Jalen Hurts and he's averaging 41.5 rushing yards. So it's about 60% hit rate in his last 5 games. He's actually gone up and over 37 rushing yards in 7 of his last 10 games. And we know with him being a dual threat quarterback, I think if we think that if any defense, and we think about this Kansas City Chiefs defense, if we can slow down a Saquon, that's going to put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hand a little bit more. And he's going to have to play make to A.J. Brown. But it also is going to lead to him rushing the football a little bit more. And, I wanted to see him healthy, if I want to see everybody healthy. But in that NFC Championship game, there was some speculation about potentially him not being 100%. I can tell you that based on how much he threw the football and me losing my pass attempts bet under because A.J. Brown was just getting spoon-fed the ball over and over again, and the Commanders couldn't stop turning the ball over, so it was a lot of extra possessions. Jalen Hurts looked really, really good in that game. He looked fine. His knee looked fine. I don't think anything's going to be wrong with him in this one. So I contemplated that a lot, looking at Jalen Hurts, either, like I said, over on his rushing yards at 38.5, something that he's done in 9 of the 18 games that he's played. So about a 50% hit rate, but even more so, 4 of his last 6 and 8 of his last 11. So, he's been running the football. You just need him to get the 40 yards. And I think that it could be that type of game. It's also open 37.5 and it's moving north, to 38. So contemplated his both of those, his rushing yards in general and his longest rush. His longest rush, like I said, is at 12.5, and he's actually hit the over on that in 5 of his last 6 games. The only game that he didn't was against the Commanders, and I mean, he never really needed to in that game, right? Just because Commanders, turned the ball over so much and they were playing with such a big lead. Saquon, was running the football very effectively, so Jalen Hurts didn't have to. So those were the two that I was looking at. Longest rush for Jalen Hurts up and over 12.5, and his rushing yards over 38.5. Didn't pull the trigger on either. So I want your thoughts on those. And then before you share what it is that you have, I wanted your thoughts on AJ Brown too. Do we think he has another big game and he can keep it going?
So Jalen Hurts, I do like. So I think, Chris, if we look at the end of the night on Sunday, and if the Eagles won the game, I think it was because of Jalen Hurts' arm that he had a big passing game. And I think that's what it's going to take in this game, because you're giving 2 weeks to the Chiefs to prepare. You're giving Spags, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, to prepare for a guy like Saquon. And can you really prepare for him? Probably not. But you can do your best to try to contain him. And I think that's something that they're going to look to do in this game. And then I think that it's going to have to be on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts. We talked about the injuries when we did the conference championship episode for the player props. And we felt like that, there was some type of injury that Jalen Hurts was dealing with. And you could tell that when he was kind of moving laterally, he was a little bit slow. It looked like he was carrying a backpack with rocks in it. But now he's had 2 full weeks off. I think that knee's probably going to, be as obviously now at this point, it's going to be the best it can be for this big game. So I think if you want to look at rushing and passing yards to go over Jalen Hurts, I think that's a good look. I don't hate honestly, the rushing yards for him in this game. I think the Super Bowl prior, he had 15 rush attempts for Jalen Hurts, 70 rushing yards. He had 3 touchdowns in that game as well. So, this is the ultimate stage now. Jalen Hurts has to go out and prove it. I think he shows up. Honestly, I really do. I mean, I don't hate the guy, but I think we're all kind of waiting for that moment where he seizes it and says, all right, I willed this team to a championship in a Super Bowl. Because if we look at it, that Saquon had another 150-yard game with 2-3 touchdowns, you're like, all right, man, the Eagles won this game because of Saquon and because of the season that success he had all season. So I say all that to say, yes, I like Jalen Hurts in this game, passing and rushing to go over. And if you want to play those, like you mentioned, Chris, for his numbers to go just rushing yards, I would be with you before I'd be against you on that for sure. As far as AJ,
I like that.
Yeah. As far as AJ Brown, I think this is a Devontae Smith game, Chris. He's been a monster against the Kansas City Chiefs throughout his career. Not only in the last Super Bowl where he had 100 receiving yards, but also he's been a monster against them during the regular season. So just to read off the numbers, and again, it's only 3 games, including the Super Bowl, but during the regular season, 2 matchups against the Chiefs, 7 receptions, 10 targets, 122 receiving yards. And then they matched up last season after the Chiefs beat the Eagles in Kansas City. Eagles won that game. And in that game, Devontae Smith had 6 receptions, 8 targets for 99 yards. So he's been close to 100 yards in all 3 games against the Chiefs. So I do like Devontae Smith over on his receiving yards for the Eagle side of things. I know you've been the AJ Brown guy all season, Chris. So, I mean, you've nailed it more times than not with AJ Brown, but I think all those guys are going to step up. And I'll mention one more for the Eagle side of things here. The first one I bet when this number opened, it was Dallas Goedert on his receiving yards. It opened up at 40, I think it was either 43.5 or 45.5, Chris. I thought that was way too low. Numbers at around 51.5, 52.5 right now. But I think this is going to be another big Dallas Goedert game. We talked about it all season. Chiefs have been the worst defense against the tight end position. I don't think that changes here. A lot of the people that I respect as far as props go, they're also playing the Dallas Goedert longest reception to go over. But I do think that this will probably be more of a game where the skill positions out of Saquon Barkley are going to have to step up if they want to hoist that Lombardi trophy at the end of the night there. So I'll give you those two, Devontae Smith over and Dallas Goedert over.
Yeah, I'm not on AJ. If I just wanted your handicap, and it makes a lot of sense, like you said, for it to be a Devontae game, especially how well we know AJ can be a little up and down. Sometimes it's because he just is not receiving the football, and it starts off with a little bit more rhythm and continuity with the Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert, like you said, and I mean, I know it's been a week and almost 2 full weeks now, and I'm still having nightmares seeing Dallas Goedert longest receptions go over and all the receiving yards that he had against my Commanders. So it makes a ton of sense. 3 straight games, every one of them in the playoffs so far, he's gone up and over to 18.5 on his longest reception. His reception prop opened at 3.5, and it's up to 4.5 as well. So a lot of money coming in on Dallas Goedert, Munaf, and I think you laid it out pretty eloquently, as you have been doing the whole season, about just Dallas Goedert ability to be able to to make plays for his team, and the rhythm right now. It seems like they have the two of them, him and Jalen Hurts. So 55 yards receiving in 3 of his last 4 games. The game that he didn't go over against Green Bay, I mean, you can pretty much call it a hook. He stayed under by 2.5 yards. So I like this one a lot. I think it makes a ton of sense. Some Dallas Goedert love, especially if you like you said, if it's going to be a Philadelphia successful night, then we're thinking it's going to have to be on the arm of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, 100%. All right, you got anything else for Eagle side?
Nah, that's it.
All right, before we move it along here to get into some touchdown scores for the Super Bowl, let me tell everyone about Edge Boost. SGPN has partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. An Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your card denied at the sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Plus, you can earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards for using your Edge Boost card. And if you know your money is safe, as the card is FDIC insured. The best part is no credit checks, and it's completely free. Sign up today and use your promo code SGPN so you get better cashback rewards and instant tier 2 status. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The big game is coming this Sunday, and Underdog has you covered. New customers get a Travis Kelce free pick if you sign up before the game. Plus, Underdog's site-wide no-sweat entry token is live now. You can cash in on your Underdog entry or get bonus credit in return. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code MACHINE. All right, Chris, let's get into our touchdown scores. Or do you have any honorable mentions that you want to mention, or do you want to get into touchdown scores?
It's a bit juice, so probably maybe I'll get there. I'm looking at I actually was looking at and it's been a while, maybe once this season, if I talked about a field goal kicker, but Harris Buckner, kicker of the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is primarily not a lot of analytical data driven around current Kansas City offense. This is more predicated on just what we've witnessed with Mahomes just kind of struggling in the red zone historically against Vic Fangio defenses, and also predicated, I guess, with that is the Kansas City Chiefs being one of the teams that really don't go for it on 4th downs. So the line is super juiced now, but I think looking at Mr. Buckner up and over his 1.5 field goals, it's 155, which I mean that's a bit juicy for me, but I do think that there's going to be some touchdowns, but I also think it's going to be some field goals scored in this game. So looking at him specifically, 155 on BetMGM, but also minus 190, on a couple books, and minus 173 on DraftKings as well. So 155 don't look as bad, even though it don't look good, but it don't look as bad when you compare it to a 173. So something I'll just probably keep on the honorable mention list, but thinking that, Kansas City gets down there a couple times. The Eagles have been really good in the red zone and kind of holding teams to 3, So looking at Harrison Buckner open over his 1.5 field goals made as well.
Yeah, this is a good one because Chiefs early in the season, and I think it was a theme for them throughout, for whatever reason, excuse me, they struggled in the red zone. So I think that could also be a difference in this game, that, hey, if the Eagles are scoring touchdowns and, excuse me, the Chiefs are settling for field goals, that could also be a difference here. But again, like we mentioned, you get 2 weeks to prepare, and I think that's sometimes a huge advantage, or not sometimes, I should say more times than not, an advantage for the Kansas City Chiefs here. Completely forgot about any game props that you are looking at. The one I'll mention here, Chris, the one I do like here is over 2.5 rushing touchdowns combined for both teams here. Obviously, we know with the Eagles side of things, a lot of their touchdowns, with the tush push and things like that, come via the rushing ways, whether it's Saquon, whether it's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts alone in the Super Bowl matchup between these two teams just a few seasons ago had 3 himself, like I mentioned. And then also for the Chiefs side of things, right? I mean, we know Patrick Mahomes is fully capable of running in for a touchdown. He's done that in the Super Bowl plenty of times, I should say. And then you have Kareem Hunt, like we talked about there as well. So I think there's an opportunity for both these teams, at least combined, to have over 2.5 rushing touchdowns. So that's one I did play here as far as game props go. And then always the one that's not popular, but again, it just makes a lot of sense to bet. Sometimes you're getting juiced out of this one, but it is the longest touchdown under 1.5 yards. And again, you get into the red zone, or you get into the end zone, you get a pass interference call. They put the ball down on the 1 yard line, tush push there, or you find a way to get in from there. So that's been a very profitable one throughout the Super Bowl history there. So those are the two that I looked at, Chris, over 2.5 rushing touchdowns. And then the longest touchdown as far as yardage goes, under 1.5 yards. I don't know if you had any thoughts on those, or if you any game props that you're looking at as well.
No game props really, that I'm looking at, but I like both of those. I mean, they make a ton of sense. I kind of feel like I remember us talking about that longest touchdown last year, and how profitable it's been for quite a while. So I really like that one a lot. I do think we get 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Little Saquon, little Jalen Hurts, maybe even Mahomes, Kareem Hunt. I mean, it's a bunch of guys. Xavier Worthy on a sweep. Bunch of guys that can get in the end zone, so I'm probably going to end up tailing you on that one. I like that one a lot. I actually like both of those. Maybe I'll split a unit on both. I think those are really, really solid.
Love it. All right, let's get into touchdown scores here, Chris. Who's finding the end zone in the Super Bowl?
So we'll go chalk one, and then we'll go. I mean, I guess it's kind of chalk too. I mean, I guess it's not as chalky, but Xavier Worthy, I see him at plus 165 on DraftKings. I guess he's the less chalky guy. Mm-hmm. It's low line with high upside yet again. I just think that with the preparation, like you mentioned, for Andy Reid and his coaching staff to be able to put him in positions to be successful, whether that's a screen pass or a jet sweep or some kind of flea flicker where it's him going long and getting behind the defense, right? Like, I just feel like because of his explosiveness and the speed that he has, the Chiefs are definitely going to be game planning to get him the ball in open space, and for him to find pay dirt. So he scored. I think I had the numbers written down somewhere in my notes, but I know he scored in a couple games in a row as well. So I do think that Mr. Worthy finds the end zone, and then chalk on the other side, man. But if you're not gonna put it at minus 155, then why are we gonna play it? It's minus 115 right now on BetMGM, man, and that's the dual threat quarterback that he is, Mr. Jalen Hurts. I watched my Commanders, not be able to get any push on the tush push and just get pushed over multiple times a couple weeks ago, and we watched it throughout the whole season. So no reason to go away from it now, especially if we just that we've seen it so many times, and it could be the last time we get a chance to make some money on Jalen Hurts, just falling behind the offensive line and getting pushed into the end zone. So we'll just go with those two. I think Xavier Worthy and Jalen Hurts are my top two. But I think if Dallas Goedert gets hot, he definitely could find the end zone as well. So I'll go with those two. But then an honorable mention would be Mr. Dallas Goedert. What about yourself?
Yeah, I like the Worthy call. Multiple ways I could get it done, right? Rushing and also receiving. It's just funny that the Jalen Hurts one, I don't know why it hasn't been like priced like you mentioned, where it's at like a minus 130, minus 140, minus 150. But if they're gonna keep giving it to us around minus 110, minus 115, minus 120, we'll take it every day of the week. So I said it multiple times. He had 3 touchdowns on the ground against the Chiefs in that Super Bowl. I think he gets another one, at least one here in this game.
Real quick, I will say this. I will say a couple like of the smaller books, a Valley Bet, a Bet Rivers, do have this listed at -134, and Hard Rock got it at -145. But then, I mean, you got prominent books like DraftKings, Caesars, FanDuel, Bet365, that's -115 and -120. So maybe it's because we're doing this early. Let's see where the line closes. I would love to be able to go back and track it and see if this open, plus, 105 plus 100, -105, because now it's, of course, getting juiced, and these props have been out for a while. I don't think it closes. I don't think that you're going to be able to get a -115 on Sunday, though. I will say that.
100%. I agree with that for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets north to like the other place that you mentioned, -130, -135 range there. I'll double down on Devontae Smith. I think that he does have a big game. I think he's able to find the end zone there, +255 on DraftKings. Mahomes at 3-1. I like that. If you want to take him for first touchdown scores, 18-1. But again, he's a guy that can utilize his legs. And we've seen him get it done there. So I like Mahomes at 3-1, 18-1 for first touchdown score. I think that's it. Dallas Goedert, you mentioned it. He's also at 3-1 on DraftKings. We both expect him to have a big game there. So again, he can find the end zone there as well. And of course, I'll mention it again. Travis Kelce. This is now down to +135. I think it was around +140 just yesterday. But again, when it comes down to it, we know Mahomes looks for his guy in Travis Kelce. So +135, I'll throw those at you for touchdown scores. I feel like this has been the year of tight ends that I've talked about a lot on the podcast, Chris, throughout the season. Not only the playoffs, but also the season there as well. So, all right, those are our touchdown scores for the game. So let's do best bets, Chris, and then we'll give our official predictions with MVP picks to wrap up the episode. So let's get into best bets here for the Super Bowl 59, and then we'll work our way from there. So I'll let you lead off best bet. What do you got?
Yeah, we're gonna go double best bet here. We're going Isaiah Pacheco under. Might as well go out with a bang. We're going Isaiah Pacheco under his 6.5 rushing attempts. Don't think that he gets to 7 with his role being diminished. And then we're also going to go DeAndre Hopkins. I'm going both guys on the Kansas City Chiefs side, over and under. Why not? DeAndre Hopkins to find some usage, with the trust of Patrick Mahomes, and kind of leaning into his big play wide receiver and his possession receiver, and then Isaiah Pacheco under. So DeAndre Hopkins up and over 11.5 receiving yards. I also think he gets the 2 catches as well. And then we'll go Isaiah Pacheco under 6.5 rush attempts.
Love it. All right, I'll go Dallas Goedert over on his receiving yards, 51.5. He's been good to me throughout the postseason. I'll stick with him. Again, we talked about Kansas City gives up the most receiving yards to the tight end position. So I think Dallas Goedert continues to find success here in this game. And then at least for the Eagles, as for the Eagles and for the Chiefs, I'll go Samaje Perine. I think it's sneaky at 7.5 on his receiving yards to go over. I think he gets it done in 1 catch. And again, the opportunity I think will be there. It's just the fact that how many snap counts is he actually going to get in this game. But I do think that he can get there for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'll take the over 7.5 for the Chiefs side, I think, as a best bet. So we'll go 4 total best bets here to wrap up the season. We'll finish out strong here for the NFL season with the Super Bowl. All right, so those are our best bets for the Super Bowl. Chris, let's get into official predictions here for the Super Bowl. Who's winning it and who is going to be the MVP for Super Bowl, raising the trophy in New Orleans on Sunday night?
You know what, as much as I'm hearing the Eagles got to win it, and Patrick Mahomes and the refs always on the same side, I don't think that anything changes here. I think I'm going Patrick Mahomes to win MVP. I'm going Kansas City Chiefs to win the game. I just think that they continue to get it done. I think they can continue to get it done, man. I'm listening to, the old heads talk about it. I'm listening to the teenagers talk about it. And it feels to me, kind of like maybe Jordan in the 90s, right? It's like, oh, man, anybody but this guy. I'm a Jazz fan. They can't keep winning it. No. I'm a Knicks fan. Somebody got to knock this guy off the throne. No, I'm not Knicks. I'm a Pistons fan. I'm a Lakers fan. It's just no. It doesn't matter, man. Right now, it's a run that's happening, and we've seen domination and dynasties, and I think we still got one on our hands here. So, as good as this, and I don't think it's going to be easy, but as good as this Eagles offense is, as good as their defense is, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. They have a golden opportunity here, of course, but you still got to be able to get the job done and execute. So I'll go Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes as Super Bowl MVP. What do you think about that? And give me your predictions.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes a lot of sense, everything that you mentioned, right? With the Chiefs, they find ways, right? And when you talk about guys having that it factor, like Patrick Mahomes has that it factor, and it's as much as you try to game plan for this guy, he finds ways. I've said this, I think I said this last week on the pod, Chris, that I keep on making the mistake of betting against Patrick Mahomes. I'll go down on that ship again. I'll take the Eagles. I think if they win the battle in the trenches, both on the offensive defensive side, I think there's a good possibility that they win this game. And I think the game plan, if I was Vic Fangio and the Eagles team and that defense, I would turn on the tape from the Buccaneers and the Chiefs from a few years ago when Tom Brady beat Patrick Mahomes in his only Super Bowl loss, where they were generating so much pressure on him and he wasn't able to really do much of anything. But I like what I've seen from Jalen Carter. Now there is an illness going around in the Eagles locker room that we've seen, about 4 to 5 guys. So we'll see if they're going to be ready to go by the time the game rolls around on Sunday. But I think that Jalen Hurts and the offense will do enough. And I think the key will be that if they did win that turnover battle, did the Eagles, and they force at least a turnover or two against this Chiefs team, I think that could be the difference in this game for the Eagles. So I'll take the Eagles here. I'll go 27-24. The Eagles win. And then for MVP, I think it's got to be Hurts. As much as I want to pick Saquon, I think that Saquon will be, I don't want to say limited, but I think they'll do their best to contain him. I don't think it'll be a game where he has 150 plus yards. If he does, look, more power to Saquon. He has proven me wrong. But I think it could be the Jalen Hurts game here. Again, if he repeats what he does in the matchup in the Super Bowl when these two teams matched up a few seasons ago, I think he definitely obviously wins MVP if the Eagles win the Super Bowl here. So I'll go Jalen Hurts plus 350. And last thing here, Chris, I want to get your thoughts on this, is that when we talk about these MVP markets, do you think it's better to just bet on these guys to be the MVP as your quote unquote money line play of the game? Because a lot of times we've seen it's really a quarterback driven MVP award for the Super Bowl. So if you like the Chiefs, you want to take probably Mahomes at plus 120 to win MVP. And then if you like, I think it's a little bit more open on the Eagle side of things because you have Saquon plus 260, Jalen Hurts plus 350. But do you think there's any merit to that, or you just still play spread in total or money line?
No, I absolutely agree. I'm glad you mentioned it because it's something that is in my memory bank, but not something that I think about all the time. And we've talked about this. I've heard you say this before, and I think that is true. I think you absolutely are betting on, the player to get better odds, right? To stay away from, the money line type bet. Because like you said, it's it's heavily correlated between the player winning, the team winning the Super Bowl and the player that that we know who's going to be the contributing factor. Unless Saquon, like you said, does something very, very, out of this world-esque, which he's actually capable of. We do know that as well, but I have a hard time thinking, that he's just going to have a ton of success in this game and that he's not going to have to work for it. A lot of Saquon's rushes, not that he can, has to go and break those long rushes, but a lot of his yards come from those, really long plays. And it's going to be paramount that, the Kansas City Chiefs win the battle up front, right? They have to dominate the line of scrimmage so that he's not getting to the secondary, second line of defense where some of these cornerbacks and safeties will have to tackle him after he's already picked up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards and hasn't been touched yet. So,
yeah. All right, there we go. So those are our official Super Bowl predictions, props, touchdown scores for the Super Bowl. So hopefully it's a good game. Don't overextend yourself is my advice and recommendation. Just enjoy the games. I know a lot of people will be at the parties, whether it's with friends, family, or the case might be. You want to enjoy the game because, again, it is the last one before we do wrap up the 2024-2025 season, have the long-awaited wait of getting back to August again for the football season at least the professional level. Chris, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Nah, man, it's just been amazing. Been amazing. I've really, really enjoyed it. Here's to another profitable season. Hopefully we can, go out with a bang here in the Super Bowl as well. Just thank all the listeners for tuning in, leaving us rating, reviews. Whether you're telling the picks or, you're just listening because you enjoy the content. Me and Munaf really, really do. And everybody at SGPN really, really, do appreciate everybody that takes the time out of the day to listen to us yap about football.
Yeah, 100%. It's been a lot of fun this NFL season, another season of the Propcast, at least for the NFL season in the books. And wouldn't have it on their way with my guy, Chris, man. He's amazing. He works hard, one of the hardest working guys I know. So it's always a pleasure chopping it up with Chris. But hey, we're not going anywhere. We still have the hardwood. We still got the NBA season. So we're here all season long and all year long. I know I've got a couple of DMs about the NBA Propcast. I promise we after the Super Bowl is over, we'll get on a more consistent schedule for the NBA. I know it'll be I don't think water under the bridge is not the right word, but I think the dust settling of the NBA trade deadline. We'll talk about that next week with Chris, and we'll talk about some of the big trades that did go down and what it means from a player prop perspective, right? I think this was probably, Chris, and you probably agree with me, one of the most historic NBA trade deadlines, one of the more exciting trade deadlines.
By far.
By far. I mean,
not even close.
Yeah. I don't think we'll ever come close to this again. I mean, it's always a possibility because a lot of guys have said this is a business, and I'm turning this into an NBA conversation. But if you were a true NBA fan, not even from a betting perspective, if you're just an NBA fan, you were glued to your phone for the past 3-4 days leading up to this trade deadline.
Just shook up, having to process it all. I mean, we saw like superstars, right? Top 5 players traded, all the way to guys being traded 3 times, all within 48 hours, and mid-level guys, bench guys. I mean, we saw a little bit of it all. It's pieces everywhere. They went left, they went right, north, south, east, west, like. A lot of plane tickets and U-Hauls being packed up right now, based off the NBA trade deadline. I'm still trying to unpack it all with the deadline just being about 5-6 hours ago here on the East Coast. So yeah, man, something I've never seen before in my 34 years of watching the game.
If you're one Dennis Schroeder, you shouldn't be unpacking anything because that guy has been traded 4 times over the past 24 hours. So shout out to his agent, if he has movers or whatever the case might be, bro. But that guy is probably having to pay a pretty penny to all the moving that he is doing. All right, we'll put a cap in that. Talk about more NBA next week. Make sure you guys follow my guy Chris at ChrisBeCappinn. 2 P's and 2 N's over on the Twitter machine. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, but always remember to let it ride.